Hi, I'm Alicia Ray Charles Gordon, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I am distributing an article. I actually put it up on my Substack, which you can find online under Ray Gordon Afterlife, or it's on Quora where people answer it, but I'm also putting it here, and I'll be handing it out with my card when I go play live, like in the parks and stuff. Or if I ever decide to become completely insane and spend $500 or more on a weekend playing over the board to learn that I have a hole in my opening repertoire at move 7, which leads to my point here, well, indirectly. Why do chess prodigies hit the rating wall? Well, actually, that's not the question. The real question is, why do people spend a lot of money on chess coaches when chess coaching is clearly a scam now? Because all they're doing is copying engines, but not only that, they're teaching you the wrong way. Why? Because coaching favors teaching prodigies in a way that causes them to hit a rating wall when they get to 2,700. You think I'm kidding? Well, let's read the article. I'm going to go through that first and read through it. Actually, let's just read through the article. That way we can see how the concepts work. We've all seen it. 1,400 at age 6, 2,200 at age 10. 2,600 at age 14, 2,800 at age 16, and at age 35, 2,804. What the hell happened? Now, the theory is that these players can't gain rating points anymore because there's a law of diminishing returns. That may be true, but is it true that there has to be diminishing returns? And I say no. What do all of these prodigies have in common? Well, they're not tunnelers. And is that fatal to your game? Well, maybe not. But by not being tunnelers, they are skipping a key part of the game, and I'll get to that a bit later. So the numbers are deliberately caricatured here. They are not a biography of one particular player, but you should get the idea. Child prodigies improve hundreds of points a year, then they hit the wall, not gradually, violently. Let's take a look at the top 10 players in the world, August 2026. Magnus Carlsen. Well, he hit 2,700 in 2007. I think he hit 2,800 a couple of years after that, and 19 years later, he is 2,823. He gained all of like 22 rating points in the last 19 years. Well, actually, here he gained 123. Fabiano Caruana is up 92 points in 16 years. Hikaru Nakamura is up 92 points in 18 years. Sindarov is up 77 points in 3 years, which is actually greased lightning compared to these guys. Vincent Kiemer up 67 points in 4 years. Wesley So, 65 points in 13 years. For what it's worth, I'm up 884 points in the last 11 years, but we will get into that. Also, at a lower rating, it's easier to improve, but the way I'm improving suggests there might be more of an upside. I'll get to that a bit later. Anish Giri up 64 points in 15 years. Now, you get the idea, 62 points. So they might gain 10 or 15 points a year after gaining hundreds of points. The exact crossing dates differ depending on whether one uses live ratings or published FIDE lists. Excuse me. These are not failed prodigies. They're the winners. It's the most brutally selected sample imaginable. Oh, and by the way, this is an AI article, but I edited it and, used AI to get the ideas out. So make sure you know that. Magnus Carlsen is the funniest example because he makes the phenomenon impossible to miss. He crossed 2,700 at 16, 2,800 as a teenager. 17 years later, he has gained 22 rating points. One of the greatest players who ever lived. This is normally explained away with a sentence that sounds so obvious nobody bothers examining it. The stronger you get, the harder it is to improve. Of course, a 2,700 opponent is much harder to beat than a 1,700 opponent. The ELO system itself becomes less volatile. The opposition prepares harder, mistakes become smaller. So forth, so forth. The prodigy factor skips stage 1, however. Why does practically every prodigy arrive at the wall carrying an enormous opening tree? This is what catches them. It's that they keep studying new openings rather than building an infrastructure that lets them blow past this wall. Modern chess training has the order backwards. A talented junior does not need a flawless opening repertoire to gain rating points. The prep kids, the coaches make a career out of minting these 2300s who can't play the opening to save their lives, but they have really good middle and end game technique. They develop really fast, and then they hit the wall. And the coach, of course, has a reputation for producing champions when he's really producing anything but. Get into things, other things coaches do, but, well, watch Kingpin if you ever really want some insight into that. That's a film with Woody Harrelson and Bill Murray. Anyway, Bill Murray was definitely, he used to coach kids, and he got very involved in the lives of those kids. I don't, by the way. I give one chess lesson, because everything here, there's only one lesson to teach. In fact, if you can't learn the whole tunnel in one lesson and do the rest yourself, find another hobby, because you stink. Anyway, let's see. Here they say give the kid enough opening preparation to reach a playable middle game, then let his talent do the work. This works spectacularly. The 1800 makes a positional mistake and the prodigy wins. The 2100 misses a tactic and the prodigy wins. The 2300 mishandles the ending and the prodigy wins. The 2500 gets outcalculated. The prodigy wins. The rating graph goes vertical. Parents are thrilled. The coach looks like a genius. Another 13-year-old 2400 appears and everybody starts talking about world championship potential. But something important has been hidden. The opening repertoire did not necessarily win those games. It merely produced positions good enough for superior middle game and end game ability to win them. There is a difference, a huge difference. And at 2700, that difference comes too. Because now the opponent's middle game technique is also extraordinary. His endgame is extraordinary. So is his calculation and preparation. You no longer have a 300-point talent advantage available to repair whatever the opening failed to accomplish. The Prodigy Factory has created exactly what it was paid to create, a prodigy. It may not have created the architecture required for the prodigy to keep improving after everybody else becomes a prodigy too. Now we get to what the tunnel is, and this is all that the tunnel is. Stage 1. Stage 1, it says that you need a perfect opening repertoire before you can move on to the middle game. And this process can take a long time. It took me, 37 years on and off, maybe about 11 years. Having carved out the tunnel, hopefully it'll take all of you maybe 2 or 3 to do this. But build your championship repertoire first, and from there you can study the middle games. The tunnel begins with a proposition that sounds almost offensive to conventional chess training. Do not make middle game study your primary project until your opening repertoire is essentially solved. That is stage 1. Not because middle games are less important, because they are too important to study randomly. Your opening repertoire determines which middle games you will spend the rest of your chess life playing. So why begin serious middle game specialization before deciding which middle games you actually want? Stage 1, if you're going to say explore the middle game, what? Intuitively? Intuition, well, let's just say, does not work. Once upon a time, it was thought that grandmasters could intuitively hold the draw against engines. We know how that worked out. The idea was you would use engines to study the forcing main lines, and you would be able to use intuition to solve everything else. That did not work, which, by the way, is why tree reduction became paramount. It says here, why begin? Stage 1 asks the opening to do something far more ambitious than produce equality or a playable game. It asks the opening to eliminate all mistakes and reduce the future move tree. Recurring pawn structures, recurring piece placement, recurring geometry, recurring motifs, transposition between supposedly different openings, positions removed permanently from the curriculum. The objective is not merely to find a good move, it is find a good move that eliminates as much future work as possible. Then, and only then, will stage 2 begin. I have just hit stage 2, and I'm now seeing that. Basically, you are turning move 12 into move 1, but you cannot do this by just getting a surface level repertoire. You'll get to 2300, you might get to 2500, you might even get to 2700. But those last 100 or 200 points to 28 and 2900, now you're talking a totally different breed of cat. You study middle games, not middle games, your middle games. the one stage one has selected for you. The distinction may explain why the conventional prodigy curve is so spectacular early and so stubborn later. The conventional junior collects rating points first and preparation debt second. The tunneler pays first and hopes to collect much later. Now, you say, well, this is the way it is, but then there was Bobby Fischer. There is one historical player who makes this hypothesis much harder to dismiss. Bobby Fischer. Fischer did something the modern rating wall story says should become nearly impossible. He reached the wall and then he accelerated again. More importantly, chess history has always regarded one supposed limitation of Fischer's game as almost comically obvious. His repertoire was narrow. 1e4, the Lopez-Najdorf. He played the same openings again and again. What if this predictability was part of the mechanism? A narrow tree permitted deeper mapping. Deeper mapping produced greater familiarity. Greater familiarity reduced future calculation and preparation burden. The key here, however, is that it didn't happen overnight. In fact, it is delayed. If you're a coach, you would rather see the prodigy get to 2,300 on a flawed foundation, and you're picking up $100. And you're picking up, hold on, I have to fix this. And you're picking up $100 an hour every step of the way. Of course you're going to do it this way. You don't care if he quits at 2,500. You built a well-adjusted young man who had a great chess career, but didn't become a champion. He didn't even try to become a champion. Sometime around 1970, tomorrow's work attached to yesterday's for Fischer. He had already been one of the best players in the world for years, but now the delayed compounding of his repertoire kicked in. He didn't hit the wall, he went right through it. He separated from the rest of the field 125 points. He gained almost 100 rating points in the final year or two of his competitive career. And if he had kept doing that, that's probably why he quit. It said in 1981 he won a match against the GM 17-0, and the GM said, I don't even remember an end game. Game 6, he won, and he got an ovation from even Boris Spassky as part of the ovation, because Spassky had made no perceptible blunders. He just got gradually outplayed and suffocated. That's what happens when you build the proper tunnel. You remain in prep, your opponent doesn't. When your opponent leaves prep and you're still in prep, plus 0.0 or even goes to plus 0.8, plus 0.8, plus 2.4, plus 11.6. So anyway, the coaches are basically scamming the parents by avoiding the part of the game that really is what separates Fischer from everybody else, by charging a lot of money for what is essentially engine analysis. And parents like to pay it because, I don't know, it's a status symbol or something. Next time, I like to ask this of women too, when you have a boyfriend who violates every rule that you have against, every generalization, what flipped the switch? What made that coach go from scam artist in your mind to my kid has to have them? Ask yourself that. You might look at where you're making your flaws, because a teacher only teaches you what you think you already know. So, as a counterweight to that, I offer everything I do free. One lesson, if at all. I mean, if I give you a lesson, it's going to be one lesson. It'll probably be about a half hour. It might be a little longer, depending on how social the environment is. But if you need more than one lesson, that's it. I'm not out for your money. If you're a parent and you want to spend $1,000 going to tournament after tournament after tournament to build a repertoire that's not even going to get you past 2,700, that's fine. I was looking at some of the upcoming tournaments. There's one where the hotel, the entry fee, and the transportation would cost me $800 for 3 days and 6 games. I can play online. Now, if you don't do stage 1, why are you paying $500 to go to a tournament only to learn at move 4 that your opening repertoire is screwed? At the very least, you should be playing the first 10, 12, 15 moves perfectly, because you can do that online and perfect that, then go and play over the board. Anyway, even if I don't play over the board, like the Congress is coming here, they had to move the World Open to DC, so I couldn't go to that. But the National Chess Congress is there, and I'm probably not going to play in it. Why? Because if I play there, I'm going to need a hotel room for 2 nights, maybe 3. That's because I'll need a room between rounds because of my age. If I just go and visit the Skittles room, however, I can take the Broad Street line down or whatever. It's a direct shot where I'm up near the suburbs, like, you haven't figured that out yet. But I live in basically a senior warehouse near a hospital, near medical care. They got services, everything. If you're over 55 and you're, well, in my condition, there are places to live that are very good. I'll leave it at that. But those places are also very accessible because I have to get to the hospitals. I can also get to the tournaments. I can even get to New York pretty quickly from here. I could from Chinatown, but that's a long trip. But the point is, if I don't play in a tournament, I'm looking at spending next to nothing, maybe even making some money hustling. And if I do play in a tournament, 2 nights in a hotel, the entry fee, and 5 games that are going to decide my future. No thank you. Anyway, I'm not online now because guess what? Lichess nuked another account of mine, and while I can play silently, any mention of my work is banned, probably because it's a threat to a lot of people's money. And anytime I play and stream, suddenly the account gets nuked. Doesn't matter though, the method still works, it's already being distributed, it's free, you can download it. And maybe if you ever decide that censorship is a bad thing, even when it doesn't happen to you, do a deep dive into this. Start asking around about my method and see why people won't even let you talk about it. Oh, and this isn't the first time it happened. Happened in the pickup artist community. When I had theories that said, no, when women figure this out, it's game over and they're really going to hate us. Oh no, you're a troll, you're saying doomsday stuff, and 95% of men won't even know what they're doing with the method. Really? So you're saying it's a 95% failure rate? The problem here is if you get one lesson, all my downloads in there, $100 an hour coach is just a ripoff. So if you're one of them prodigy parents who's at a tournament, and you spent $1,000 so you can look good to all the other prodigy parents, 95% of whom are going to have a kid who doesn't become a champion, and you're paying $100 an hour to a coach, and I'm guessing you're doing without something, why don't you save all that money, try the tunnel, study online, study at home, and don't go to a tournament unless you have something to really show there and to learn there. Anyway, those are some thoughts here. I'll be going for now, back to my training, and I'm Alicia Ray Charles Gordon. This is my YouTube channel, and I will catch all of you next time. Bye-bye.